Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. Hang on, I've got a dog here that just wants to go outside and lie in the sun, but she can't. Long story. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. Today we are talking about procrastination. And the reason why I mention that is because it's something that I see in myself, of course, and it's something that I see in my clients. My clients do great when we're doing sort of exercises and work together. And then when it comes to them having to apply them in their lives, then sometimes that's more of a problem, and they can see the benefit and they know the benefit of it. And so I've been giving it a lot of thought and thought that I would share some pointers with you. So procrastination is the thief of time is one of the sayings that we are used to knowing about it, and that's the truth. So here's the thing. Time is finite. We only have so much time. There's only 24 hours in a day. We only have so many days in a lifetime. And the more we procrastinate and the more we put things off, the more time we essentially waste. And the more we waste, when I say waste, the more we use up resources that could be channeled into creating what we would love and to creating our best lives. So there are two streams of consciousness from which we are always creating. So all of us are magnificent creators, right? Everybody's ability to create is equal. Some people have more resistance to creating consciously because they have more trauma or they have more suppressed emotion or they've had a more difficult time. But essentially, we all have the ability to create, and we are all creating constantly. So whether you know it or not, you are creating the life that you have. Now, you didn't necessarily create your family trauma. You didn't create your generational trauma. So that's why I'm saying this is more difficult for some people than others. But intrinsically, we all have the ability. This is not something that is only for the chosen few. This is not, a gift that only the well-educated or the wealthy or the beautiful or the healthy have access to. Everybody has access to this. And yes, we all have our own individual journey in terms of how we apply this and what we can create, but we all are powerful creators. So what happens is we've got two streams of consciousness that are always creating. So you can think of this as your egoic self or your lower self. That's not a good or bad term. It just is your ego, which is your mind, your rational thinking, your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings. That's part of your ego, right? It's associated to your physicality because you need a brain in order to be able to think and you need a body in order to be able to feel. And from your thoughts and your feelings and your perceptions arise your beliefs and your expectations and the stories that you tell about your life. So that's the one stream of consciousness. Then you have your higher self or your limitless self or your limitless spirit. And that is also constantly creating, which is why you have some areas in your life where you really struggle, So some areas are the areas where you just don't seem to create the shit that you want to create. And then other areas you seem to create relatively effortlessly, okay? So it's almost as if it's just like by magic. Well, when you understand how creation works, you can choose to create not by it is like magic, but you're creating consciously. The problem is that our focus determines our reality. It's not a problem. Our focus determines our reality. So whichever one of those two streams of consciousness you are giving the most focus, that is what you're going to create. So if you've got most of your focus on your ego reality, your limitations, your limiting belief, the stories that you tell, the reasons why you can't do what you want to do, then you're going to keep on creating that. And if you've got most of your focus on, or the bulk of your focus, that means 51% of your focus on what your limitless soul or your spirit is longing to express, then that is ultimately what you are going to create. Now, your focus by default is set on your egoic reality. That's actually the problem. So that's the default setting, and that's the setting from which most of us are creating what we think we want. And ultimately, we are creating the truth of what we believe about ourselves. And so we all have these very fundamental limiting beliefs that are formed in the first 3 years of our lives in response to our unmet needs or trauma. And those beliefs are what we're trying to compensate for constantly from the point of our ego, right? So for example, if being good enough is what's missing in your life, you are going to try and compensate for that by trying to be more than good enough about everything. If not being worthy is what's missing in your life, if you feel being worthy, that worthiness is missing in your life because that's a belief that you have about yourself, then you're going to constantly try and prove your worth so that you can compensate for what it is that you believe about yourself. However, if your focus is on that limitation, then you are ultimately always going to create circumstances. And sometimes it might take years for you to see the evidence of this. Those circumstances are always going to reinforce the truth of what you believe about yourself. Now, when we're creating from our lower selves, we're limited to what it is we know. When we're creating from our limitless spirit, we have access to unlimited versions, okay, to unlimited resources. Problem is, we have to shift our focus. Okay, so what's this got to do with procrastination? Well, because at the level of your lower mind, whatever you thought was missing in your life becomes important for you to actually create. So if, for example, you thought that education was missing in your life and that seriously disadvantaged your family, so let's say that your parents were poorly educated and your aunts and uncles and your grandparents were poorly educated, and you have made an association between a lack of education and a lack of financial wealth. So let's say your family was really poor, and you made the connection between education and prosperity, then education is going to be really important for you. And so you're going to have a high value on learning and educating yourself. So at the level of our ego, whatever is missing, whatever we perceive to have been missing in our lives, or whatever we think is going to get us the most validation, becomes valuable to us. And that's where we prioritize our time, our energy, and our resources. Now, in the long term, we can actually fulfill those values. In other words, we can create the money, or we can create the education, or we can create the family. But because it's at the level of the ego, and at the level of the ego, we're actually trying to compensate still, we're limited in what we can create. But the more aligned we are with what's truly valuable to us, the more likely we are to actually take some steps. And the less likely we are to procrastinate. However, the world has its own values. So your parents have a set of values of what they think are important, and your culture has a set of values of what it thinks is important, and your religious group has a set of values, right? And the government has a set of values of what it thinks is important. And so from the time that we're tiny, we learn that when we support the values of our caregivers, then they warm up to us and they open up to us, and we translate that as they love and accept us. And when we challenge their values, they shut down and they close down and they reject us. So we learn that supporting the values of people that are important is important, more important than our true values. And so what happens then is we start trying to live in the value system. In other words, we try and put our energy in what's important to the authority figures in our lives, our parents, our preachers, and our teachers. And when you start using a lot of imperative language like I must, I should, I need, I really need to exercise, I really must eat healthier, I really have to eat more vegetables, as soon as you start using imperative language, that's an indication that you are trying to live outside of your value system. And the more incongruent you are with your values, because of course you're taught that being true to who you are, in other words, doing what is important to you is selfish, especially if you're a woman. And doing what's important to other people is more important than doing what's important to you. So what happens is you live according to all these imperatives. I really must do it. I really ought to do it. I really should do it. So what happens is you harness your discipline and you decide, okay, I'm embarking on this new health diet and exercise regimen, right? And so you use your will and your discipline and you focus it, and most of us can only actually do that for about 6 months. Some of us much shorter than 6 months, but the max is about 6 months. And then we run out of steam. And that's when we fall off the wagon. And then we start procrastinating again. And then we start going back to our old habits. And then we start feeling shit. And then we're like, well, why can't I just go back on that diet and do that exercise? Because I felt so amazing. So part of the reason why is because you just don't have enough of a value on it. So that can lead to procrastination. Okay? That's at the level of the ego. Now, let's just imagine that you can connect to your higher self or your limitless spirit. And you know that you would love to be healthy, but you just can't get your shit together in order to do it. Why is that? Well, because one of the reasons is because you're not shifting your focus onto what you would love. By default, your focus is on what you think is possible, not what you would love. And so as a consequence of that, you have all this resistance from your ego that's stopping you from living in alignment with your limitless spirit. And your ego communicates to you through your thoughts and your feelings. And that's what then results in your beliefs and your expectations and the stories that you tell. So your ego always has a rational reason. So it would be something like, oh, don't exercise. It's too cold. It's too cold and dark in the morning. Or, you know what? I hate exercise. I can't find an exercise that I love. And no matter which one I try, I hate them all. Or, you know what? I hate vegetables. So I can never be healthy. So why should I even bother? All right. So that leads to procrastination. That leads to us not taking the step in the direction of creating what we would love. So I would like us to do a little exercise right now. Now, this is quite hard to do on a live, as you can imagine. It's not hard to do. It's just that I have no idea how you're going to experience it. So wherever you are sitting right now, if you can, just take a moment and think of something that you've been procrastinating about. All right. It might be having a conversation with someone. It might be asking for a raise. It might be starting that exercise program. It might be eating more vegetables, whatever the hell it is, right? Just think of something. You can always come back to this recording to redo the exercise, right? This is just so you can get an idea of it. So just write down, but you've got to be very honest. Okay. Don't try and whitewash this. What are your thoughts when you think, so for example, when you think about starting to exercise, okay, really, when you think about like doing it, what are you really thinking? So maybe you're thinking like this would be a great idea. Okay, but then go back to when have you ever tried this before? Like, what are your thoughts really? So it could be something like, I hate exercise. I'm so unfit. It's going to be shit when I start. I can never see anything through. This is probably not going to work either. Actually, exercise doesn't really help me to lose weight, and weight is what I want to lose. Whatever your thoughts are. But you've got to be brutally honest about your thoughts. So this is part of what is called the set A, set B exercise. This comes from William Whitecloud's work. He calls it set A, set B. Set A is the truth of what your ego believes. And it starts with your thoughts and your feelings. So what are your thoughts about exercise? Or what are your thoughts about vegetables? Okay. What has been your experience in the past when you've tried to do this? And what do you think about your chances of success? Write down all your thoughts. Once you've written all of that down, so for the purposes of this exercise, you need 2 or 3 thoughts, okay? So that would be something like, oh God, I hate exercise. It's going to be so hard. I'm going to be so stiff. I can never see this through. I always give up before I get fit. This never lasts. What if I injure myself? I can't do this on my own. I can't afford to go to the gym. It's the only way I could get fit is to go to a gym, but I can't afford it, or I have to do a group class, whatever. Okay. I'd love to go to pole, but my hip hurts or my arms. If I had 50 cents for every time someone told me how they'd love to pole, but why they don't, I'm like, okay. It's neither here nor there to me. But the truth is, those are just excuses. Either you don't want to do it, or you have resistance to doing it, which is why you're not taking that step. Okay, so your thoughts and your feelings. So what are your thoughts, and how does that make you feel? So when I think about like, oh, exercise is going to make me stiff, and I don't want to do it, and like it makes me feel frustrated, and it makes me feel a bit irritated, and it makes me feel guilty because, I know this is good for me, and why am I not doing it? Okay, it makes me feel like I lack discipline. Right, so how does it make you feel? And when you have these thoughts and these feelings, what does that make you want to do? So you can go back to the past. In the past, when you've thought this about exercise or you felt this way about exercise, what has it made you do? Mainly said, fuck it, I don't want to do it, so I'm going to do something else. Or, fuck it, I don't want to exercise, I'm going to eat more. Or, I hate vegetables, I'm just not going to eat them. Or find evidence to support the fact that I don't actually need to eat vegetables in my own mind, or on YouTube or Google or wherever. Okay. So your thoughts, your feelings, or what does that make you want to do? So what does that make you want to do? That's your strategy. That's the strategy of your ego that is keeping you in your cage so that you can stay safe, even if staying safe isn't serving you right now. So let's assume that you want to exercise and, you've got a blood pressure problem or diabetes or something. It's going to improve your signs and symptoms, but you don't do it because your ego doesn't want you. It doesn't want you to step out of your comfort zone. It wants you to stay safe. So that's set A. Now, I want you to put your pen down. I'm assuming you wrote that down. That would be better if you write that down, because you want to spend some time, because set A can be very juicy. And it can uncover the unconscious reasons, the bullshit, basically, you've been telling yourself about why you can't do this thing. So now I want you to just close your eyes, take a deep breath in through your nose, and just sigh it all out through your mouth. And then just take your awareness to the base of your skull. And just imagine, using your mind, that you can float your skull off your spine a little bit and just feel how that straightens and frees up your neck. And then take your awareness to your collarbones and imagine your collarbones extending through your shoulders to the opposite sides of the room so that it widens the front of your chest without necessarily moving anything. And then take your awareness to your shoulder blades and just imagine them moving down into the sides of your body. And then take your awareness to your pelvis and your hips and imagine them extending outwards. And then as you take another deep breath in, imagine your diaphragm as you breathe in becoming concave, pushing down into your belly and massaging your organs gently against your pelvic rim. And then when you breathe out again, your belly pulls slightly in and your diaphragm returns back to normal. And when you breathe in, your belly expands slightly, your diaphragm drops. When you breathe out, your diaphragm goes back to normal and your belly it contracts slightly. Now, I want you to connect to the center of your chest, your heart center, and I want you to set an intention to serve yourself from your heart today for your highest good. The minute you do this, you center yourself. You connect automatically to that part of you that's limitless, whether you believe it or not. Now, I want you to imagine that in front of you is a beautiful golden elevator. The doors open, you step inside, it's plush, it's luxurious, it's hugely spacious, it's the most beautiful lift you've ever been in your life. And you look at the display, the doors close, you look at the display and it says, whatever your name is, higher self version of whatever it is that you are trying to make a decision about, all right, whatever you're procrastinating about. And then as you push that button, imagine that elevator rising, and as it rises, you leave all your thoughts and your feelings and your old strategies, you leave it all behind. You feel your consciousness expanding. As the elevator moves faster and faster, you get lighter and lighter. The air becomes more and more golden. You start feeling light and free and empty in a good way. No thoughts, no feelings. You let go of the need to get this right. You let go of the need to know. You let go of the need to do whatever it is that you think you need to do. You just let go of everything. You leave it all behind. And the elevator goes faster and faster and faster. And as it goes faster and faster, you become lighter and lighter until it feels as if you're floating. And the elevator comes to a standstill. The doors open and you step into the most beautiful, welcoming space. And in that space is your higher self, the part of you that is all-knowing and all-wise and not limited. And as you connect with that part of you, you ask yourself, you can ask your higher self if you like, what is your vision for me, exercising or eating healthier, whatever it is that you've been procrastinating about. And then connect deeply to what that is. And if you struggle, then ask yourself, what will it feel like when I do this? What will it feel like when I've created what I love? What will it feel like when I'm fit and strong and healthy? What's that going to feel like? And then breathe that feeling into your being. And once you've connected to that feeling, ask yourself, when I'm in this feeling, what does this make me want to do? And if I was to do this regularly, what would the outcome be? And with that feeling and that knowledge of how it will feel when you create that outcome, step back into the elevator. Press the button, the door closes, the elevator descends all the way down to the ground. The doors open and you step into your current reality. You feel your feet anchoring you to the floor. You take a deep breath in through your nose. You breathe it all out and then you open your eyes. So what I've just done is I've given you the two perspectives. Your ego communicates through your thoughts and feelings. You noted your thoughts and your feelings and your strategies. Your higher self or your limitless self communicates through your imagination and your intuition. So we used our imagination to go and connect to, first we connected to our hearts, very important. Then we left all the other shit behind and we rose to a higher level because that's where your higher self is. And then we connected to what will this feel like when I've done this? When I've actually taken this step, what will it feel like? And that's your higher self communicating to you through your imagination and your intuition. And so those are the two perspectives on doing whatever it is that you're not doing right now, whatever it is you're procrastinating about. Now, it's at this point that you want to harness your will, because you have, and you know what your thoughts and your feelings and your strategies are based on your ego, and you know what the outcomes of your strategies are. So if your strategy is, fuck it, I'm not doing it, well, then you're going to stay, I don't know, unfit and feeling aches and pains and whatever, okay, not being able to hike or whatever it is that you can't do because you're not fit enough. But if you follow the dictates of your limitless spirit, whatever that said, what does it make you want to do? Maybe it makes you want to exercise right away. And if you did that regularly, what would you have? You'd have that sense of freedom in your body. You'd feel strong. You'd feel empowered, maybe. I don't know, whatever it is you connected to. That's your higher self version of what you can create when your focus is on your higher self. The other is your ego version of what you create when your focus is on your ego. Neither is good or bad. It's just two different versions of where you're going to put your focus. And so at this point, you can access your will and you can go, okay, I'm going to use my will to choose which one of these I would prefer. And then I'm going to take an action that's in alignment with one of the two. And that, my friend, is how you stop procrastinating. Because if what you want to do is really what you would love to do, when you connect to your limit, it's not good enough to just connect your ego. Because your ego is always going to try and stop you from doing anything that's outside of your comfort zone. But your limitless spirit wants you to create what you love. And one of the things that we would all love to create, fundamental need of all humans, is to be healthy. So that's why I use health as the example, okay? And so if what you want is health, but you're procrastinating on taking that step, it's because your focus is stuck on your ego reality. And this simple little exercise, set A is your ego, set B is your limitless spirit. Neither of them is good or bad. This exercise is not designed to make you feel better about your life. This exercise is really just designed for you to get a different perspective. And then you can use your will to choose which one of these perspectives you want to place your attention on. So to sum up, you're either procrastinating at the level of your ego because you're doing things you think you should be doing, not that you want to be doing. Or, more importantly, that's a very sort of low level why you're procrastinating. The higher level why you're procrastinating is because your focus creates your reality. By default, your focus is always on your ego, which is always trying to keep you safe. It's actually operating from fear and is looking for security. But you have this part of you, this limitless self of you, that part of you that creates from joy and love and has unlimited resources and potential. And when you shift your focus onto your limitless self and you connect to the feeling of how it will feel when you have actually done this from a higher self perspective, then you can choose which way to take the action. And if you've chosen to take no action and you still procrastinate, look, this is a big subject, okay? I was actually thinking maybe I should do a masterclass on this. I'm going to do I could do a whole workshop on procrastination, actually. But the reason why you're still not taking steps is because you have too much resistance. It's because there's a part of you that wants to. There's a part of you that knows it's going to serve you. That's the higher part of you. But you know what? Your limited part, the part of you that's stuck in the fear and that prefers safety rather than creation, that part of you is stopping you from taking that step. So it's not easy to take the step, my friends. It is difficult to step out of the cage. None of us wants to step out of our security. None of us wants to step out of that safety zone. However, if you're prepared to step out of the safety zone, you can create a life that you would love rather than a life that is dictated by fear and a need for security. So I hope that made some sense to you. Thank you to those of you who are on here watching this live. I really appreciate it. If you are watching live, please type live in the comments. If you're watching the replay, please type replay. If you've got a question or a comment, please type it in the comments. I would love to know what you think about this. And I would urge you to go back and redo the exercise with a little bit more time, perhaps, and a little bit more focus, and see what comes up for you. This is the kind of thing that I teach in the Your Best Life training. The next one is happening in August. Remember, I put a post up about that yesterday. This is also what I teach all my clients to do. And essentially, this is how we start operating as conscious creators of what we love rather than unconscious creators of what we believe about ourselves. I hope you have an amazing day. Oh, and of course, if you'd like to learn how to do this, and if you would love to actually live a more consciously creating life, creating what you would love, then I would love to help you. You know where to find me. You can reach out to me, send me a message. I'll set up a call. We can have a chat. And if you're ready to take that step, you might be ready to take that step with me as your coach and your guide. I would love to be that person. I'm sending you lots of love. Thanks for watching another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. Thank you to those of you who have heard this a million times before and are benefiting from the reminder. And I will be away next week, so there will be no Shit Loretta Knows next week. I will see you again in the first week of August for more Shit Loretta Knows.